Hello, my name is Adrian Cabalfin, and this is my author discussion about Octavia Butler and her novel Bloodchild. So, just a little bit about Octavia Butler. She lived from 1947 to 2006, and she was an African American science fiction writer. Her very first novel she ever published was called Pattern Master, and it was published in 1976. However, this wasn't the novel that really made her career or popularized her as a writer, but instead was her that novel was Kindred, and that was published in 1979, and it was the novel that just boosted her career by an immense amount. The novel tells the story of an African American woman who travels back in time to save a white slave owner. So, uh, some of the awards that Octavia Butler won. In the mid 1980s, Butler began to receive critical recognition for her work. She won the 1984 Best Short Story Hugo Award for Speech Sounds, and that same year, the novelet, the novelet Bloodchild, the one we will be speaking about in this particular author discussion, won a Nebula Award and later a Hugo as well. In 1995, Butler received a Genius Grant from the MacArthur Foundation, and this was an amazing feat for all science fiction writers alike because this was the first time that a science fiction writer had ever won the award. So, a little about Butler's writing platform. For some writers, science fiction serves as a mean to just jump into fantasy and explore the unexplored and explore the future, the past in a way that hasn't been seen before, that it could be changed. Just so many different routes you can take in sci-fi or science fiction writing. But for Butler, although she did write science fiction type novels, it largely served as a way for her to address issues facing humanity. And I believe that it was the passionate interest in human experience and what she had gone through as a child or experienced that that she was able to imbue into her work that gave her work a certain type of depth and complexity and really stood out among the rest of other science fiction writers and their stories. Just a few fun facts about Butler. One was she was dyslexic, which is very interesting for a writer, seeing as many people with dyslexia have a very hard time reading. She had impressive height for a woman who she was 6 feet at the age of 15, and she is known as the Grande Dame of science fiction. And Grande Dame is a way of describing a woman with with a certain type of excellence in a specific field, and her field, of course, was science fiction. So, a little bit about Bloodchild, just a summary. The protagonist is Gan, who is a young male child, and the antagonist would be considered the Telic. So, the Telic are aliens, and of course they're humans, and they coexist on an alien planet. Gan is a carrier for the alien species since the Telic cannot reproduce on their own, so he is implanted with eggs. And at first, he does not question his role as a carrier. He's happy, content. However, it all changes as Gan watches another man go into labor, and he watches as the Telic removes the developing eggs from the man's abdomen and plants them inside of an animal that the man was instructed to go get. And this scene forces Gan to question his own willingness to serve as a carrier, but in the end, he agrees to save his family. So, a few of the themes that I noticed myself in this story were coexistment, gender binary, and coming of age. So, the analysis of coexistment. Uh, the Telic and humans are interdependent on each other seeing as that the Telic need the humans to reproduce, and the humans need the Telic to survive with food and so forth. And this is, I chose this as also a depiction of men and women, but that'll come more in the gender binary analysis. But uh, for this particular instance, I just wanted to mention some of the things, such as how men at this time depended on women, for certain types of things such as cooking and feeding and taking care of children, as women had depended on men for bringing home money and doing men roles. And although that is not the case now, because as men and women we are all equal and we should all be equal, and many do not see that as an option, but it is the truth that we should all have the same opportunities and things to pursue in our future or so forth. Um, Next. So, analysis of gender binary. So the Telics are the male power role and humans are the female power role. And so, mm, like for an example in the story, uh, firearms, the Telic control the humans in certain ways in order to get what they want. So, for example, firearms were illegal, and firearms were illegal to human use. And another instance was that motorized vehicles, except certain farm equipment, were forbidden for the use of the humans. And these two particular instances in the stories describe some of the restrictions that the Telic have put on the human, or in this story they are also known as the Tyran, I believe, their way of life. And this is similar to how women in our society are, maybe in the past, and I'll just continue. It is similar to how women in our society are told what to do or what not to do, what they can or cannot wear, or what they can or cannot say. While in today's day and age, it may not be as straightforward, but women are still taught these ideals in a subtle way through gender performances in the gender binary. And Butler is criticizing this practice in our modern day society. And another instance of another way that Butler criticizes this specific theme was that Gan had been told all his life that the Telic deserve a Tyran child, yet he doesn't quite believe it. And Butler's making a statement about men in our society and some shows that we have, such as The Bachelor, where they have this idea of men choosing a woman to marry. And this idea of men picking a woman is ingrained in our society, and it's just another uh, idea of Butler criticizing this specific theme. Analysis of coming of age. So this theme is I would say, is the most prominent in the story, because Gan starts out initially innocent and he is just a plain child, but Gan undergoes a physical transformation that is also an emotional and social one. His implantation of the eggs can be understood as a loss of virginity, and he agrees to the implantation for many complicated reasons that suggest his new maturity. And when he chooses, despite his fear and disgust of what he knows is going to become of him, he does so to not only protect his innocent sister from what he knows, but he also assumes the responsibility for maintaining the social order established between the humans and the Telic species. And so this specific theme is very prominent in the story, because it's what you could say is basically the whole story, in which that Gan starts out as just a child, but he knows what he needs to do and he gets it done. these are some of the sites that I used. The biography site was for Octavia Butler, and the the other two were helpful in my analysis of the specific themes that I chose. Thank you.